You'll vote for Tim O'Connor, cause he believes in the Constitution. And as your assemblyman, he will be your voice. He'll never let you down, make Tim the choice. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We finally had a man who hears your voice. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Tim O'Connor is the only choice. Write in Tim O'Connor, Libertarian, for New York State Senate, Senate District 51.
All right, guys, it's Wednesday night, October 28th, 2020. Hey, Peter Yapel, we are coming down to the wire, brothers and sisters. This is the moment of truth. Do you guys dare to write in a Libertarian candidate for New York State Senate? And if you do, will it be worth it? Number one, guys, you know me. You've seen me broadcast these things. If you write me in, if I should win, you know you will be getting the best deal that you've ever gotten. I will work hard for upstate New York, for Senate District 51, to bring back an economy, to right the wrongs that have been done for decades in this state. Taxes are too high, regulations are too oppressive, and every time you turn around, it feels like there's going to be a boot on your neck. And guys, that's the reality of New York State. So my success, guys, is not final. Failure is not fatal, but it's courage to continue that counts, guys. And that's why I'm broadcasting. That's why I'm here. It's courage to continue because, guys, I'm realistic, man. I don't think that I'm going to win this election. I think that people should think about giving me their vote because that's real. I can make a difference. Just giving me your vote can make a difference. And that, guys, is something that we need to think about. Brother, what's going on with you? That's okay. I was checking out your broadcast with Peter Kokesh or Adam Kokesh the other night and sending in some comments when you guys were talking. I don't know if you caught any of them, but it was good to see you. It's good to know you. And New York misses you, brother. So many people have left this state. It's not even funny. And I can't blame them. No one can blame them for wanting to leave this state right now under the current false box of this duopolistic notion that we can only save our state by going to the state and begging for money. Like, that's the deal. That's what we do. And that's where the problem is. Yeah. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Dan Humble, how you been, brother? It's good to see you, man. I'm glad you're here. All right. Yes, change can only happen when we embrace it. That's for sure, man. Found my freedom, though, or my comfortable place to start. Good. Yeah, and we will always need guys like you, right? As you guys know, I'm not a marijuana, cannabis, hemp expert, but I advocate for the deregulation of that product because in Senate District 51, we have 30, 40, 50,000 acres of formerly productive farmland that is gone fallow, that we are not collecting tax revenue off of, that we are not making productive things off of, that basically is a symbolic of what's happened in New York State. We lose an industry and then we don't allow any other industries to come back in. We don't allow freedom. Freedom's been done in this state, guys. Put a fork in it. That thing is cooked. And so one of the things I do want to talk about, guys, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? Under a week away from Senate. That would be nice. I'm a realist. So as much fun as that would be, as hard as I would serve Senate District 51, I realize that I'm probably not going to win. But guys, if we get 1,000 votes, they have to wake up and listen. If we get 2,000 votes, they've really got to start wondering what we're up to. And this whole thing, let's talk about that for a second, right? Let's blow that up. This whole thing started out as an experiment. Can a guy with not a lot of money and not a lot of savings heading into his basically his, we're getting into retirement age. I'm 54, not retirement age exactly, but you know, I've been a contractor for a long time, for 25 years. I'd go around and fix people's houses, do the hard work of getting things done, solving their problems, and hopefully providing them with a fair valued remodel of their house, repair their house, or an upgrade to their house. And guys, I've never been sued. I've never been like, every problem that I've had with a customer was able to be worked out between me and that customer, because that's how I am. And if it meant taking a hit, I would take a hit. If it meant getting tough and kind of arguing my way through a situation, sometimes I had to do that too, because that's important. Sometimes people get confused about what's right, what's fair. Um, so I had that happen too a few times, but basically we've got through everything without any kind of major dust up. We made agreements, we made arrangements. That's a kind of energy I'm going to bring to the New York State Senate. You know, like that's the fight. Get in there and convince those guys that their system of economics, their thoughts that every time we go on to fix something in the state, we need a new program to fix it, from some sort of alphabet soup style organization that doesn't make any sense, where we're taking money out of our communities, filtering it through the state, and trying to give it back to somebody to help them start a business. Guys, that costs too much money. That's why this state is emptying out. And guys, I'm looking around and I see a lot of Trump signs, and I see a lot of Biden signs, and I see some Jorgensen signs, right? But the biggest signs I see, guys, homes for sale, garage sales. I see vans pulling up to houses, guys, and that's practically every day. And I'm not making this up. There are houses for sale all over Senate District 51. And again, guys, that's because New York State looks like it's in trouble right now. And let's be honest, guys, it is in trouble. It's been in trouble for a long time, financial trouble. Excuse me. That's fine, brother. You can, I think I can fit pretty big questions, whatever you want to ask. But if it's going to be really complicated, sometimes I'm not good at that when I'm popping off about politics. But do your best, man. I appreciate it. And thank you for being here, by the way. Yes, I am on Facebook, brother, at Tim for 51. It's my Senate page. I could use a few more likes. I'm up over 1,000 right now, up over 1,100, I think. But guys, that's not enough. So of course, the likes, the comments, the shares, the talking to each other, the asking questions, that's number one. That's energy for me. I take that energy. I enjoy trying to answer your questions, and I enjoy having these conversations. So that's another reason why I do this. Obviously, it's not for money. Obviously, it's in hopes of changing the direction of the Titanic that's driving head on into an iceberg. Though I think if I remember correctly, the glancing blow of the Titanic hitting the iceberg was the real problem. But if we can avoid that iceberg in New York, and I'm not sure that we can, because I'm not sure that we can convince enough people fast enough. Thank you, brother. As are you. And guys, all of us out there doing the hard work of making a life in upstate New York. Trust me when I tell you, and I'm not saying this to be mean, but our lives are harder because it's more expensive to live here. Okay. So, and that's real, but it's worth it too, right? If we could change the direction in New York State, if we could start bringing people back in, if we could start growing an economy, and we see some investment in, from some return on our energy, some pushback on the state, if our local communities start realizing that their number one goal is to figure out how to keep people here, and how to help kids have a side hustle, and how to help kids, encourage them to buy property here, how to do that, guys, then we've made a difference. And we can talk about the high level of property taxation in New York State, and how that in and of itself will drive kids out of here. We can talk about affordable housing, and how the high property taxes that we face are the problem with affordable housing. And then when our answer is the government's going to build housing, that's not the answer. That is not the answer. That answer hasn't served us. That condenses people in urban areas and lets our communities around those urban areas just die. They wither and shrivel and die. And that's what's going on. So weed legalization would be weed, cannabis, hemp legalization, deregulation, and deregulating it to benefit our communities. And guys, you've heard me say this so many times, because it's important. It needs to be easier for farmers to grow a cash crop that works for them. Now, that's just a piece of the problem, right? That's just a piece of the situation. When I stole the questions from the debate that I didn't get invited to out in Cayuga County, they talk about algae blooms and how nitrates in the water are a problem. And those things all play off of not allowing farmers to develop their land the way farmers, that would be most beneficial to farmers, right? So if we're talking about, they're now about to force farmers to keep a green space between field, a productive field that's growing food for their animals, or even hemp or something like that. Okay. Between that and a river, because there's fertilizer there, if we just let farmers develop their own stuff, some of those green spaces could turn into residential spaces. But the reason why farmers can't do that, guys, because they can't just build a housing tract on their land, is because then they get taxed at an entirely different rate. Then all of a sudden it's not agricultural land anymore. And all of a sudden, so that's where the state stands in the way. That's where the state is not creative enough to solve problems. And that is the bottom line. All right, let me handle some questions because I got a bunch of things to talk about. And if we are not careful, we'll go on all night, but we're not going to do that. You know that. Yeah, thanks, brother. I love that stuff. Yeah, down the road, we're going to talk about who I'm voting for president. Guys, don't let me forget to talk about who I'm voting for president tonight, because sometimes I will tell you who I'm voting for and then forget to talk about it. But I want everybody to know who and why I am voting for who and why I am voting for. Does that make sense? Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. I know you back me 150%, and I back you 150%, brother. The change starts now. The work that we're doing starts now. So what I'm doing was hopefully an inspiration to you. What you're doing is an inspiration to me. And then, guys, if other people want to talk to the Otsego County Libertarian Party about running for office, any office at all, let us know. We're here for you. I have lots of ideas of places where I'd like to see a more libertarian influence, starting with my town court person. We need to replace her with a libertarian because she was not nice to me the other day. Had a fix-it ticket from a couple months ago, back before the COVID apocalypse, and she just impolite about it, guys. It was just, it doesn't matter. It's not cool. We need to treat each other better, and that includes our bureaucrats that are making money off of our tax dollars. They need to treat people better. We're all on the same side. Yeah, boarded up, people moving out, brother. I'm telling you what, some people are moving up this way from the city, and that's great. We welcome them. I welcome them. Please leave your voting for Andrew Cuomo back in the city, though. Thank you. We have, hey, brother, how you been, man? How are the boys? That sort of thing. Thank you for being here. Carol, my Senate District 51. Okay, let me tell you about Senate District 51, guys. And a lot of people, a lot of my friends have seen this a bunch of times, okay? But the Senate district is the size of Connecticut in square acres. Okay, it's the size of a state. It goes, and it's the weirdest shaped, most gerrymandered district you have ever seen, because they tried to, for a couple of reasons. Some of it bad, some of it good. You know, there was a sort of a Republican majority in the New York State Senate, so they wanted to make sure that Republicans got reelected. So they gerrymandered districts into weird shapes. If you have time, check it out. It's shaped like a ray gun. It goes down to Ulster County by almost to New York City practically. It goes all the way up to Herkimer County. It grabs Schoharie County on the way. It grabs a big chunk of Delaware County on the way. All of Otsego County, all of Schoharie County, all of Cortland County. Then a part of Cayuga County, Tompkins County, and Shenango County. And I think I'm forgetting one there, maybe a little piece of Greene County, but there's 9 counties in there. Yes, thank you, brother. I think my ideas are right for New York State. I think that this is the battle that we have to fight. That the idea that, like, with all due respect to Jim Barber, because he's been very nice to me and very enjoyable to talk to, and guys, that's real, okay? When you're a third-party candidate and you don't get your name on the ballot, being able to talk to the other candidates in a civil way is important. And Jim Barber did that, and he's the Democrat that's running for Senate District 51. He's a 6th-generation farmer, and he's okay, guys. He thinks he can lower property taxes by taxing Wall Street. And guys, let's talk about that. Let's blow that notion up for a second, because we're already seeing these big hedge funds leaving New York State because they see the writing on the wall. The Democratic Party is going after what's called a sales tax on every stock transaction. The stock market is not what it used to be, guys. It's not 2,000 people sitting on the floor of Wall Street yelling and screaming back and forth. It's all computers. And if they can move those transactions out of New York State and save their customers money, that's what they're going to do. And that's what they already started to do it. I got the guy's name right here. What's his name? Paul Singer's giant hedge fund leaving New York City for Florida, guys. He's actually splitting his business up. Half of it's staying in New York, half of it's going to Florida. But trust me, That's how they sneak out of New York State without Cuomo shaking them down, like he shut down Excellus for over $1 billion. So yes, keep this in mind because we're going to have this conversation. Theodore asked me what is the best argument for the Libertarian Party is. I'm considering the ability to draw the major parties to more sensible ground. However, my counterpoint is they keep the same policy while pandering to different crowds, parties, primaries in general. And you know what? This is a big debate point about the Libertarian Party right now. And it's a big debate point on Twitter. And a lot of really kind of famous libertarians are, some of them are upset and some of them are kind of like trolling. So what is number one right now, when we look at the national level, on some level, we all have to agree, right? There's only one party for the most part in Washington, D.C. They're this corporate duopolist. They pretend to fight like Coke versus Pepsi used to pretend to fight back in the 80s. Guys, Libertarian Party's RC Cola, man. And again, when we get back to the Ziggy question, okay, there's people that love the state because it helps them signal their virtue to the world. Okay, they get to say, okay, I love poor people. Let's make a program. And it's like, all right, but let's just think about that for a second, because again, guys, just like in New York State, they're taking money from somewhere, putting it into a collective pouch, and then administering that money. And guys, administration costs are expensive. So if they take $1 billion to the federal government and they plan on giving it to, let's see, new hemp farmers that grow type A hemp, okay? Now they got to take that money and spread it out all over the country, and they need about 700 people to find them. And so they started with $1 billion. The administrative costs are going to be 400 million. And so by the time they spread it all over the country, we're looking at a net benefit of $100 million to some local farmers. That's how government works. And so that, to me, to draw down on the size of the state and to realize that really there's already one party operating, they just are operating on exactly the same level. And guys, Trump's an anomaly to that. I don't care what anybody says. I don't dislike him. He's an anomaly. He's not part of that system per se. He certainly is flawed. He's certainly imperfect. And every conservative that I talk to is honest about that. They realize that. But that's also part of why they like him. All right. So he's already stepped outside the optics of those two parties. That the optics isn't the right word, but would be a better word. Somebody help me. But anyway, so the optics of those two parties. Trump has definitely stepped outside the swamp. That's something people like to say. Trump stepped outside of the normal way of doing business. He's a businessman. That's what my mom likes to say. She likes the idea that the country is being run like a business. Now, some of Trump's businesses been successful, unsuccessful, but so that's it. That's what I want to say about Trump. Yes. Tom Queter is running in Senate District 52. I am running in Senate District 51. And let's say Tabitha, for example, you're in Shenango County. Tom actually has the lower half of Shenango County, and I believe the line goes right through Norwich, or above sort of the middle of Norwich, or to the north side of Norwich, right through Shenango County in a straight line. Splits it in half. And then I think there's another split where a little sliver of Shenango County goes up with like Senate District 53, if I remember correctly, which, guys, I'm talking about Senate District 51. I may not remember it correctly. But so, yes, I am running, but I'm running in a different district than Tom. And Tom, whom I support with every possible fiber of my being, guys, he's in a two-person race. There's been times when I've been raising money, and I'm just like, if you've got money, give it to Tom, because he's in a viable, real, possible, can win kind of race. Are you the one that made the masks, Tabitha? Because I've talked about you a bunch of times on this show. I just thought that was excellent. If that's you. Yes, Trump is a party unto himself. He is. That's real. So. All right. Yes, I still have that mask. That was such a cool, like that conversation was awesome. I know you were a Bernie supporter, right? And you were just like, but what you're saying makes sense. And we had that great conversation. And then you hooked me up with some masks the next day, that or the couple days later. And guys, that's one of the things that libertarians, Tabitha, I talked about you on the Larry Sharp show, believe it or not. And I don't know if you know who Larry Sharp is, but Larry Sharp ran for governor of New York State against Andrew Cuomo about 2 years ago. Against Andrew Cuomo about 2 years ago. And guys, he did really well. He grew the notion. Actually convinced me that a libertarian party was not only viable but possible, that we could actually grow a third party in the state of New York that can have an impact on making our lives better in New York. So I talk, and he gets thousands of views, and he's very popular, and he's a wonderful guy. And I've done a bunch of things with him throughout the course of my campaign. But I talked about you on his show, and how I was just like, my neighbor didn't have a mask, and all of a sudden you're like, well, me and my sister make masks, and I had a mask for my neighbor, and like, I don't know, a day. It was amazing, guys. All right. So one of the things, guys, tonight, an issue I want to cover. Got a couple of them, but went in. I had to take my kid in for a COVID test because he had the sniffles and he was changing schools. So I took him in for one of those rapid COVID tests. And as always, they ask, what kind of medicine are you taking, and yada, yada, yada. And I said, well, he's got the sniffles. So I've been giving him vitamin D, vitamin C, and I gave him some zinc. And she goes, well, add melatonin to that, and you've got the treatment for COVID that we're prescribing for kids under 16 or something like that. And I was just like, Dr. Mark Brayman, that guy knows his stuff. Thank you, Tabitha. If you can vote for me, write me in. It's going to be on the line. There's going to be, I think, Peter Oberbacher first, Jim Barber second, and then all the way down at the bottom where the write-in is, you write Tim O'Connor, Oconnor. And as long as you get all those letters or something close to that, my vote will count. Your vote will count. That's what I meant. All right. Yes, brother. Thank you very much. I will run for president someday of the Libertarian Party. Maybe. I doubt it, but that's okay. I'll try. Yes. All right. So it's good while we're here. Let's talk about this. Let's get to this conversation, guys. I don't know if you notice, if any of you guys follow my Senate page. My friend Brian LaRusso wrote an endorsement of me that, guys, it blew me away. Okay, you guys can go check that out. You can see what he says about me. You can see what he says about Ola Huatma. And guys, that endorsement was in spite of who I'm voting for, because he's a Trump fan. And like I said, I don't dislike Trump. There are things that he's done that are libertarian, and that's one of the big kerfuffles about the Libertarian Party right now. But he knows that I'm going to vote for Joe Jorgensen, and he knows why. And we're going to go into that and why this could possibly be the most important vote that you're going to cast in New York State for the president. Okay. Now you can almost take a look at Joe, really like her policies. I think that everyone that I've talked to that has watched her speak and listened to her policies and tried to get a handle on what she's talking about has liked what she said, has liked her ideas. And those ideas are central to the Libertarian Party of equality, freedom, smaller government, less wars, less military invention, sensible immigration where we treat people with respect, guys, because right now we let people come here and we give them a visa and we put them to work on a farm. And if they screw up, guys, they get fired, they lose their visa. And that kind of stuff is nonsense. Okay. We don't have the right. We shouldn't be treating people like that. Now, should we let unchecked immigration come across the border? No, but if down the road we're successful, I'm not an open borders libertarian. I'm not like the southern border. We need to share liberty further south before the southern border becomes viable. We have to change our welfare state before the southern border can just go away. We have to change the notion that we have, property rights here and they don't have property rights there. And then we've got to decrease the power of the drug cartels before we can say, okay, unchecked immigration at the southern border. Those are things that have to happen first. Now, there's libertarian ideas and solutions for those things. And if we elect a libertarian, that's what we're going to get. But guys, as I was saying about my friend Brian LaRusso, guys, he has listened to my solutions. He compared my solutions and my ideas and my goals about property rights, okay? to the other two candidates. My acceptance, my realization that we're a top-down governing structure, and that's part of the reason why New York State's been wrecked and broken. Okay, he looked at that and he compared it to my other two guys who both came to talk to him, as did I, way more than they did, though, because I like Brian and we have some other goals that we're working on together. So he wrote me an endorsement, and that's in spite of the fact that I'm going to vote for Joe Jorgensen. He feels like, as does Robert Force, that maybe they are libertarians, maybe they're not. But they're close. They're definitely conservative, on the conservative spectrum of conservative Republicans. And when, as we travel through life as conservatives, because that's how I got to the Libertarian Party. I started life as a independent, and then I'm just like, every time I take a look at the government growing and my taxes going up and my rights being abridged, and I went to a family court fight and I felt like I was undermanned and outgunned because everything they said was like, they're just kind of lying to get me to buy this hook, line, and sinker kind of deal. And guys, I still made out good from family court, way, way, way better than lots of other guys. And I made out good, not because of the family court system stuck up for me, not because of that. Okay, get that thought right out of your head. Okay, if you're a guy going through family court, you're going to hear some things that are absolute lies. Okay, they're going to tell you something about, well, we examined both cases equally and blah, 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 blah. They don't. Okay. They don't. All right. So I made out good in family court because my baby mamas, the people that I was involved with were decent human beings. And they realized that I really cared about my kids and that they wanted their kids to have me as a dad, regardless of how well we got along. And either one of them could have made that a lot harder than it was. And they did good for that. So in spite of the fact that I'm going to vote for Joe Jorgensen, and I'm going to ask you guys to, okay? I'm asking you guys to vote for Joe Jorgensen. Why? Because we need that third party. We need better Republicans in New York State. We need better Democrats in New York State. Civil liberties meet small government in the Libertarian Party. And that's why I'm voting for Joe Jorgensen. Libertarians need to have ballot access. And of course, the one-party system, and this is with all due respect to Republicans, human beings that are Republicans that want smaller government in New York State. Your party left New York State 2 decades ago. Now, we've had occasional victories, but we haven't had a good guy run for governor in 3 cycles. We even, 4 cycles. Guys, it's been that long. The party has abandoned the state. The big money party, the optics of the party. And Robert Force, I know you know what I'm talking about, and I know Brian LaRusso says it even better than me. And there's issues that need to be solved. The idea that libertarians, small government, civil liberty libertarians, can have an impact on making better Democrats, making better Republicans, that's the least of the reason, but that's one of the reasons why you should vote for Joe Jorgensen. Because that will help libertarians, guys like me, maintain automatic ballot access. Guys like Queter maintaining automatic ballot access. And yeah, we'll still have to go through the petitioning process. We'll still have to find other libertarians to sign on the dotted line for us. And guys, there's room in the Libertarian Party for people to come in here and help us stake a claim, help us move into the future towards freedom, period. All right. So, and thank you, Tabitha. I appreciate that. All right. I believe Trump has carried on most of the same exact policies, but that's a topic I wouldn't put myself on the spot. So, shall you? Yes, I will attempt to persuade you. And I the same. The point is moot, and because there is no way not being okay. Yeah, I think that Trump's going to win re-election. There's a lot of energy for him, though the polls are going to be more wrong in 2020 than they were in 2016. Now, it's kind of hard for me to believe, though. I don't know. I'm concerned. I say no matter what, Biden wins New York by, it was 1.7 million. Hillary won New York by 1.7 million votes in 2016. 1.7 million votes. So if people are leaving the state at an alarming rate, which they are, guys, okay, who left? Entrepreneurs, middle-class workers for better jobs. Who left the state? People that would either vote Libertarian or vote Republican. That's who left the state. That's real, guys. I'm not making that up. I'm not trying to like, if I'm wrong, I will eat my Copper Fox golf tournament hat live on the air because I'm not wrong. So, yes, Brian LaRusso is awesome. He is a good man, and we're going to do good things together, Brett, or Robert. We are. I voted for no one. Yeah, I believe that. There are people that don't believe in voting. I don't quite understand that myself. But I've read convincing arguments on it. It was against taxes specifically, but yeah. Well, thank you, Ziggy. I appreciate that, man. I really do. I'm not even sure. Like, I just know that moving forward, taking my energy to the state level and taking the notion that none of these guys understand economics. Okay. And guys, that's the one real thing that I did besides being a contractor for 27 years. I went to Binghamton University and I graduated from Binghamton University with an economics degree. I studied Friedman. I studied Marx. I guess I wasn't a great student, but and I worked full time because I grew up a poor kid in a poor neighborhood and then moved to a family farm that was poor. Okay. And I'm sorry, Mom, but that's the reality of it. Okay. We didn't have a lot of money and I worked my way through college and I worked hard to get through college. And that meant something to me. I didn't really want to be an economics guy sitting behind a desk my entire life. So that part didn't work out, but so I know economics. I understand economics. Thank you, Levi. Thank you for being here. How are you, brother? What's going on? Down on Long Island, right? I saw that, man. That's the thing. When 500 people show up cheering for Trump at a Biden rally, it may be 700 people. That stuff is A, funny, and B, says to me that the polls are getting it wrong, because how do they accurately poll when people do this? They look at their phone, they don't recognize a number, they put their phone down, they hit the little button, they're like, they'll leave a message if it's important. No polling company is going to be like, hey, we want to get your opinion on who you're voting for. So there's some inefficiency in the polling system that I think our modern electronic age has exacerbated, okay? So it is incredibly possible and entirely possible that the polls are wrong. But they're not going to be wrong about New York State, guys. And that's with all due respect. Your vote, guys, all of you guys out there that are listening to me, your vote means what it means to you. It's important to you. And I always will respect whatever decision you make, because I know, especially my friends, that you put a lot of energy into making that decision. So I respect it. There's no such thing. I see this wasted vote thing, and that's something, guys, that party operatives say back and forth to each other, and it's the most obnoxious thing that I've ever heard, because there's no such thing as a wasted vote, guys. There's no such thing. If your vote is your voice, okay, so you cast it for who you want. If I can persuade you to cast it for Joe Jorgensen because we will grow the Libertarian Party, and that's what New York State needs, and the country needs in some levels, especially other states like California. They need a Libertarian Party. Oklahoma's moving this radical leftist way. Texas has a big Libertarian Party already, because Republicans and Democrats often seem to cooperate. It's like they want one program. The Democrats want one program, like guys will use Otsego County. Democrats want a program where we build micro houses for people. And then the Republicans want a program where we develop property for some sort of business to move in here in the future, and the county owns the property while they're developing it. And guys, all of those things, and as we know, as we watch our property taxes go up, all of those things, guys, fall back on the taxpayers of Otsego County, or whatever county you're in, where virtue becomes the law, okay, where the government goes into business doing things to provide jobs for people, and they say no to entrepreneurs, and they sell land to a land trust. And in a county where 60% of the property in this county is already not for profit, non-taxable value, based on value, non-profit, not taxable, Okay, you can't charge property tax on a hospital. You can't charge property tax on a college. Okay, and the colleges interact with the community. They bring a lot of money here, and that's fine, guys. That's important. But we're missing the whole thing. If a college, a hospital, and the two colleges and a hospital are paying no property taxes, and all of the other not-for-profits figure a way around getting tax reductions on their property, that bill's picked up by you and me. I'm not saying that's wrong, guys, but every time we add to that burden, every time, even incrementally, even just a tiny little bit, right? Even if it's just 500 acres that we give to a land trust, that adds to the property tax burden on the people that are living here. Okay, period. It's first of all, it's that kind of thinking permeates the government in New York State, that just a little bit more on the middle class, just a little bit more on our businesses, just a little bit more. And it's a quality of life issue. So everybody should be really happy about it. Like, we just make quality of life better for somebody by running an empty bus from Cooperstown to Worcester. No, guys, stop it. Okay. And chasing grants are all of our county organizations are chasing grants from the state, and the state $13 billion in debt right now. Budget deficit debt. Okay. It's 50-60 billion dollars in debt otherwise. $13 billion budget deficit. And they're finally, guys, and this was something else I wanted to cover. So give me a second. They're finally starting to deal with COVID slightly differently. Finally. Thank you. Well, yes, thank you. I think, guys, see, and that, guys, right there, Warren and Shelley, thank you. That's the kind of stuff that keeps me doing this, guys. Polls are ridiculous. They are. And, guys, I've mentioned it before in other shows, and I'll just run through it real quick. Polls are bought. They're paid for advertising, period. Okay? They're not supposed to be advertising, right? But if I had $1 million and I buy a poll, guess who's winning that poll, guys? I mean, that's just how it goes. So if the Democrats buy a poll, fine, the Democrats win. And if a Republican buys a poll, and maybe Trump doesn't buy as many polls, maybe that's what it is. It could really be that. It is. And people buy it, though, Michael Boyce. Why do they buy it, man? Why do they buy it? Yes. I like to think of that as a wedge between two parties. Honestly, at some point, we're going to realize, guys, entire party shifts have changed in the United States in the past, and it's always been based on one simple concept: individual liberty versus the power of the state. That's what the Civil War was about, guys. Individual liberty, power of the state. Federal government, individual rights. And so the issues behind the individual rights when it came to the Civil War get a little bit confusing. They're a little disgusting. Okay, let's be honest, like property rights and stuff like that. And the property that they were talking about owning was other human beings. But that's when the Republican Party was started. And it was started by 20 black guys, one white guy, and they were all in favor of ending slavery. That's how the Republican Party got started. Are they still there? Are they still fighting for individual liberty on that level that they're willing to lay their lives down for that? They're not. Okay, it's not happening that way. They're part of the structure of the party. Guys, I promised you, and I'm doing this tonight, I promised you to talk about endorsements, okay? One of the things that I want to talk about, guys, is if you see a guy with an endorsement from the New York State United Teachers Union, I just want you to know what they stand for, okay? And so these are the questions that they asked me, or one of them. I just want to go over one of them. So New York already has a special millionaires tax or some sort. But right now, what New York wants to do, what New York State United Teachers want to do. And guys, this is with all due respect to human beings that are teachers that realize that economic opportunity in our communities is the pathway back, okay? Like, that's different, okay? The New York State United Teachers Union is a lobbying firm that collects money from unions to lobby the government for programs that will benefit members of their union. So they have an ultra millionaires tax, a billionaires tax, and a pied-à-terre tax. All right. So what they're saying is if they enact these taxes on people, these are human beings, right? Billionaires ultra millionaires and the luxury tax. I paid it. Okay, yeah, it's a luxury tax, guys. There's not a lot of luxury buying going on in middle class upstate New York. But if we're angry about people having more money than us, we can be like, yeah, tax those rich guys that are buying yachts to float on Goodyear Lake or Cooperstown Lake. Let's tax those guys. Let's do it. But the point that I'm trying to make is there is a guy running against in the 121st, and he is a Democrat. Okay, and he's been endorsed by the New York State United Teachers Union or whatever the heck, nice, whatever it is, man. Anyways, I wouldn't even fill these things out. Okay, I wouldn't even fill out the one for the NRA, guys, and that's with all due respect. Like, I don't want a rating from the NRA, and I'm going to go into that in a minute before the show is over. So, but hang in there. So, this is what this union advocate wants to do: is they want to tax billionaires, ultra millionaires, and the purchasing of luxury goods. Okay, and they have estimates of how much money this is going to raise to the state coffers. Every time these things are tried, businesses leave. Okay, they move to Florida. They have their way out, or they all the way out. And guys, you saw there's two major hedge funds that left New York. I mentioned one already. There's another one that already left. They left because they see the writing on the wall. They see that there's going to be this sales tax added that's going to make these transactions more expensive for their customers. So their customers aren't going to invest with them anymore because they'll just invest with a mutual fund or a hedge fund that already isn't involved in New York State. Does that make sense? Guys, if you have a question about that, type it in. But there's already hedge funds that aren't involved in New York State because Wall Street is practically imaginary anymore. They let it happen there, but they don't have to let it happen there. It can go anywhere. It's a borderless business practically. The only thing keeping them there is probably the back end payoffs that they'd have to pay to the state to leave. I don't know. Don't want to. Just being a little cynical, guys. Yes, what I mean is to benefit the union and its power in to give. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. So then one of the other things that's in here, and some of it's not bad. They're big advocates of state-run schools, like how France has just basically made charter schools illegal. They want the property tax law repealed. Okay, so let's say a guy running for the 121st, okay, has been endorsed by these guys. Straight up, been endorsed by them. I'm going to say that as middle-class, hardworking Americans, no matter how nice this guy is, that endorsement should cost him votes, okay? Because this is a manifesto for destroying New York, and it will take what we've already done and make it worse, okay? We will accelerate chasing people out of here who have wealth, who may be able to invest and produce jobs, but I don't even care about that. Stop chasing people away from the state. Every person we lose from this state is one less person we never have. We're down millions of people, population-wise. And neither one of my competitors understands that that's the most important metric to talk about. I haven't heard either one of them. When I talked with Jim Barber in the Shenango County Candidates Forum, I had to bring it up. We're losing population rapidly. We teach our kids in our schools that we pay for, and they go out to the world to make money. And they're not staying here. And that's because there's no economic opportunity, guys. So, and will we solve all that? No. But will deregulation of our economy, will a nicer presentation to people like, hey, these are the businesses that we want in New York. If we want to keep this certificate of need thing going, pre-issue certificates of need. We need these businesses in these communities. Any community can do that. They can say, look, we want this business here, issue a certificate of need. So those are things we have to change the mindset in New York. Those are that's a war that I'm going to fight if I get to New York. Yes. All right. Have I caught? Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, I was live when Keith was debating, but I watched Keith in the Shenango County forums debate, and I thought he did a great job. I think he's doing a great job. I didn't see Jake's debate because I think it was during the day when I needed to be somewhere else. I saw parts of Dwayne's. I saw most of the one with Dwayne with his Democratic rival, and I saw Larry's replays of Dwayne with all three of them. And so Dwayne and Jake and Keith are all guys that we should consider voting for. Queter, myself, Victoria Alexander, Ola Hawatma, all of these people, we want to change the dynamic of governance in New York State. And that's how we've got to do it, guys. We can't vote the same old way. We can't buy the duopolies stories anymore, because the story of the duopoly in Otsego County is, I mean, whatever. You've heard it. Go back to Brian LaRusso and my interview. We did 2 together. You can see what happened. It's obvious what happened. So where was I? Oh, I was bashing the guy. There's in that 121st. There's 2 guys. One is Jake Cornell, that has not been endorsed by the New York State United Teachers Union, and then there's another guy that isn't as cool as Jake, but whatever. I think that I like Jake has a future in politics. I think that there's yes, Russ Penner. Is he? Okay. Did you see any of Penner and my yeah, I know it's Penner. Penner and I did a bunch of podcasts together. I was trying to get him on for another podcast, but this part of the election season gets too busy for he's got to do what he's got to do. Plus, guys, that's the other thing. Libertarians are still working their full-time jobs, and I'm not saying the other 2 guys aren't, but I'm telling you right now, it's been busy and I've been tired, but I'm still here sharing my views, saving the world for you and our children. One vote at a time. So one other endorsement, guys, that I want to talk about, and this is a direct shot at the NRA, and that's with all due respect to NRA members, guys. If you're an NRA member, you certainly believe in the Second Amendment, okay? But at some point, we have to admit that local action is more effective than being a member of the NRA. Thomas Massey, practically a libertarian, one of the most libertarian-minded members of the Assembly, the Congress, from Kentucky, has a B+ rating from the NRA as a punitive measure, all right? Because they wanted regulation that he was refusing. He's the chairman of the 2A task force in the Congress, something like that. Anyways, check it out. You can check it out yourself. But he has a B+ rating from the NRA. When a guy like, I want to say Lindsey Graham or somebody has an A rating from him, and it's like, all right, guys, that's political. It's a money-raising organization, guys. 2A NYS, which Dwayne Whitmer, as you mentioned before, is involved with. And of course, our own local Otsego County 2A sanctuary, which has done the work without the money. Okay, so if you can contribute to that, if you can help them with project, if you can build signs or put signs from them on your lawn, anything like that, that is going to be effective action, because the only way we solve this 2A problem is to bring it local. The next round of legislation coming down from New York State is economic bigotry, plain and simple. If they start forcing you to insure your guns, poor people are going to be the ones affected by that. Rich people are always going to have guns, period. So that kind of action is more effective. What did I do? I forget now. I get on rolls and rants, brother. I know, but check this out. Career politicians do this. Well, we're going to create a program for retraining so that people can write code for Google, or some ridiculous notion of that's how we're going to get more. That's how we're going to create jobs, by offering people better training. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to Cuomo and we're going to beg for some money, and we're going to get this program, and this program is going to train people on how to be phlebotomists. So yes, brother, we all of us who own our own guns are practically more we're way more pro-gun than the NRA, pro-Second Amendment. When I see an article in the paper and they say pro-gun, I feel like that kind of undersells what we're talking about. But no offense to you, John, and thank you for being here tonight, right? It's not just guns. It's the concept of I have rights and I have responsibilities, and I'm willing to defend those rights, and I'm willing to defend my property and my family. And that is what's embodied in the Second Amendment. Right now in New York State, if my mom defends her property with one of her weapons, she's probably going to get arrested. Okay. So probably there's a problem. All right. She's 74 years old. She's proficient with weaponry. Guys, don't go to her house and steal crap. Period. She'll take the hit. Pro 2A. Oh. The reason why I say it like that, Ziggy, is because there's a communication pattern that we work on in our society, that we run off of in our society, that I'm trying to put behind us. Even though I have a hard time myself, right? We set up this, I'm over here, you're over there, let's fight. Okay. So there are people in the NRA that contribute to the NRA that are pro Second Amendment. The NRA is like negotiating rights away. That's not our imagination. Okay. They get involved in crafting legislation that benefits and fills their coffers from not just people who want to see the Second Amendment flourish, but from other people who want their regulations imposed. And that, guys, sometimes gun manufacturers are involved in funding the NRA because they don't like competition. Okay. So if they can make it more expensive to make guns, they will, and they will give the NRA money to buy regulations occasionally. That's real. We all, libertarians especially, know that. Politicians sell regulations and the NRA buys them. Sorry. Okay. Not that they're not. There's better ways of being pro Second Amendment than giving money to the NRA. And guys, that's with all due respect, because the concept of the NRA protecting Second Amendment rights to own weaponry, okay? The concept of individual liberty, the concept of you having the right to defend yourself and protect yourself, which the NRA ostensibly stands for, is good. And so there's people in the NRA that think of the NRA like that. And there have been points in the history where the NRA didn't totally ruin that. It's ownership I care about. It's not only our Second Amendment right, but it does. The government should, and that's another thing that libertarians all basically agree on. Conservatives all basically agree on, that the government has been, and guys, there's people from the left too. The government has overstepped its bounds now for a decade or more, like just for decades. Okay, just keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger and taking more and more of our rights over and over and over again. What else? So I talked about that. All right. We're getting down to the end, so I'm a little bit leery of, I like to go for about an hour, guys. If you've got any questions, get them up there. I love the questions. The questions are basically towards the end, especially the questions. If I get into another big subject that I've got written down here, we're going to end up going long, I think. But yeah, Steve Filano is a great guy. Jim Ostrowski's a great guy. Dwayne Whitmer's a great guy. Those guys all got that 2AMYS going. He's done a lot of work. He's represented people who've been arrested for red flag laws and successfully defended them. Period. Okay, for practically nothing. Okay, the guy actually stands for Second Amendment rights. Okay, that's reality. There's no lip service. He was at the protest, the vaccination anti-Cuomo, let's investigate Cuomo protest, and I heard him speak, and I love that guy. He's great. So let's see. Let me just go through my. Oh, I got one. This one's pretty short. All right. There was a question in the debate that I forgot to answer when I self-debated my two opponents. Okay. And it was about the government response to COVID, and they were both, guys, they were ambivalent, right? They were like, oh, the government's done okay so far, and we should open up a little sooner. And like, okay. I'm like, literally, the New York State government don't care if you like the job that Cuomo has done. They have failed on so many levels that it's embarrassing. All right. Now, what are those levels? We could talk about the nursing homes. That's not even it. Okay. Locking down the entire state when COVID was downstate. All right. finally, guys, now we're starting to see that Cuomo is accepting the science of a hotspot is not the entire state. Okay. That a targeted response, and guys, we could have been doing this since about July when we got our numbers down below hospital maximization. We weren't even close to maximizing our hospitals. We sent people home. There's real problems with the government response to COVID. Cuomo needs to be investigated for the nursing home incident. And guys, I'm not sure that anything will ever happen with that, but there are Democrats that are saying it and there are Republicans that are saying it. And if we get in there and the Libertarians start saying it too, maybe we can get somewhere. Okay. But right now it's kind of like them say it, Republicans say it, nothing's going to happen. Okay. So the new hotspot policy that he's starting to initiate, like talking about a red alert in Orange County and lowering it because it was at 12% infection rate, which I'm not sure you had the numbers right, but then it dropped down to a 2% infection rate because they shut everything down. Guys, that's how it should have been, because up until reopening the college in Oneonta, Otsego County had only had about 100 cases of COVID, and we locked our economy down for 3 months before we started opening things back up. And guys, that was nonsense. We shouldn't have accepted that. Our local elected officials shouldn't have accepted that. We should have done better. And that's what I would have said had I been at the debate, that I would have advocated immediately for counties to take care of themselves in this situation. Like, protect your people. Yes. COVID is real. Yes. Okay. Guys, but at some point, this targeted hotspot policy is actually decent science. All right. It actually is decent science. That's the way to do it. Shut down Orange County for 2 weeks. Guys, let them settle it out. That's fine. It spreads slower that way. We're not stopping the spread of COVID. Okay. If you're afraid of COVID, please take care of yourself. Okay. That's real. That's the real part of it. But a targeted attack on situations, on areas where they're having problems. And guys, I'll tell you what, we're going to find out someday where those problems started. And I know where they started, but I can't say it on Facebook because I'll get deplatformed. So trust me, if you want to know, send me a message what I'm talking about. Anyways, guys, it's about an hour. My voice gets hoarse after about an hour. Thank you all for being here this late on a Wednesday night. I'm going to do at least one more this week, probably again on Friday. If you guys have questions, if you're thinking about voting for me, check this out. If you voted for one of those other guys and someone has convinced you to vote for me, you can still go vote in person. And in New York State, that's where your vote counts. Your final vote in person is where your vote counts. So you technically in New York can have a do-over and you can still vote for me. All right. All the way up until November 3rd. And that's real. I know. Dude, how does this guy get elected? You know what? At some point, we're going to explore the economic opportunity cost of voting, because it is more expensive for people in upstate New York to vote than it is for people in downstate New York by a substantial amount. And we're going to talk about that because I'm an economics guy. We're going to talk about opportunity costs and how it affects the libertarians and how it affects the voting, because there is an opportunity cost of voting in upstate New York that's too high. Nah, it's not quite that, but thank you for putting that up there. That's it's psychological. There's yes. We'll talk about it, brother. See you later. Guys, thank you all for being here. 58 minutes and my voice is getting hoarse. I will do this again probably on Friday. I have a couple of things that I'm going to post. One thing in particular that I'm going to post, and then a small TV interview that I did. All right. Thank you all, guys. I very much appreciate it. Thanks for being here, brother. All right. I appreciate it, guys. Take care all. Have a good night, and we'll see you Friday.